Thank you everyone, and thank you for being here. The people who keep our towns and cities alive when the lights come on and not when they go out. And to be here in Liverpool, what better place for this summit? A city that's a cultural icon in its own right. The home of the Beatles, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and the Lightning Seeds. And also Camel Fat, and I've also danced to a few of their bangers over the times as well. And the legendary nightclub, of course, Cream, and later the Creamfields Festival. I want to start on a personal note, because the nighttime economy isn't an abstract concept to me. It's not a spreadsheet or a briefing note. It's something I've relied on and lived and loved. I grew up in a working class household. Opportunities didn't come easy. Like millions of people across the country, my early working life was shaped by hospitality, by late shifts, by weekends and by graft. People know I was working in the care sector as a home help, but they might not know that, like so many of you, I also worked in a pub, the Malt Shovels in Cheadle. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. Pubs, clubs and venue bars, these places weren't just where I worked, they were where I found my confidence, community and culture. They were spaces where people like me learned how to show up, how to perform and how to belong. And yes, I still love a night out. I always have, because nightlife at its best is joyful. It's creative, it's social, it's human, and it matters. The nighttime economy is not a sideshow, it is a cornerstone of who we are as a country. Economically, its contribution is enormous, supporting millions of jobs, driving tourism, powering local economies, and sustaining supply chains that stretch far beyond our high streets. But its value goes far deeper than GDP. The UK's global identity, our music, our fashion, our arts, our cultural influence is inseparable from what happens after dark. People come to this country because our venues, our screens, our creativity. They come to perform here, to learn here, to start their careers here. For generations, the UK has been a cultural launchpad to the world. And that didn't happen by accident, it happened because we created spaces, often grassroots, often fragile, often independent, where talent could take risks and community could gather. And that is why what happens to this sector now matters so deeply. Because let's be honest with each other, the nighttime economy has endured years of hardship. Long before the pandemic, businesses were already under pressure. Then COVID hit the sector hard and fast, with the shock impact still felt today, with the nighttime economy having shrunk by 30% compared to before the pandemic struck. And since then, it's been a story of rising costs, energy bills, staffing shortages, inflation, business rates and debt, creating a perfect storm. The real human and business impacts are stark, as numbers of nightclubs, once a haven for our youth, have declined in this country by 30% since 2019, and over 75,000 jobs were lost in the sector between 2024 and 2025 alone. And while resilience is something this industry has in abundance, the burden of recovery cannot just fall solely at its feet. The burden must be shared. Over 70% of this sector is made up of small and medium-sized enterprises, independents, grassroots venues, family fund and run businesses. These are not faceless corporations. They're people who are taking risks, employing locally, investing emotionally and financially in their communities. And if we're serious about recovery, then we must fuel the recovery of them. That means recognising the value, not just in rhetoric, but in policy. And this is where we must be candid. There is without doubt a clear divide between policy that truly understands the nighttime economy and policy that simply applies a one-size-fits-all approach. Too often, policy is done to this sector, not with it. And I recognise clearly and openly that more needs to be done to engage the industry directly and consistently and respectfully, to listen, to co-design, to recognise expertise where it exists, because confidence in politics matters. Businesses need to believe that they will be treated fairly, that the rules won't shift without warning, that the long-standing structural issues will finally be addressed, not deferred again. That means looking seriously at the pressure points. Over the last few weeks, I've spoken candidly with businesses in my own constituency and many beyond it. And they say it's a huge challenge that they're facing and that it's a challenge just to stay afloat. Customers aren't just there in the same way as they used to be, as business rates remain punishingly high, energy bills soar, and costs in your supply chains and VAT bites. Across Europe, governments recognise that hospitality and nightlife required extended support, not handouts, but as investment. Now the government needs to plan to aid recovery, to stabilise the cost, to give businesses breathing space. I believe the government should look at how to support the night economy to thrive once again, more seriously, not ideology, but pragmatically. But economic reform alone is not enough. We also need to look at how the system enables, or too often restricts, this sector's ability to thrive. That means licensing. The government should be working towards a more enabling, more permissive approach to licensing, one that recognises the value of well-run venues and trusts them as partners, not problems. A system that is proportionate, efficient and rooted in partnership rather than constant friction. And I'm delighted today to see the Mayor of London hit this forward, announcing today a London-wide strategic licensing policy to boost the capital's vital hospitality and nightlife industries, something that I pushed for when I was Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State. And we now need to see more of this, and it means planning. More efficient, responsive planning process is essential if we want to encourage investment. Businesses need clarity, certainty and pace, not years of delay and a drain in confidence and capital. And at the same time, we must harness the power of the agent of change principle. And done well, it protects communities and businesses, ensuring that long-standing venues are not pushed out by poorly planned development, while neighbourhoods remain livable and safe. And this is not an either-or, it's about balance, fairness and long-term thinking. The 24-hour economy can't just be an afterthought, and it must mean joining the dots with public transport too. For those wanting affordability to go out on the night out and get home again, and of course those workers who can have to afford and rely on those transport routes as well. The night bus network, now in place in Manchester, has been transformative for the nighttime sector. Just as in London, workers can afford to get safely and affordably to and from work. This is something that shouldn't be a luxury in our major cities, but a necessity in supporting our high streets and the 24-hour economy. And alongside this, ensuring that workers in the sector have a minimum shift pattern is crucial. And if shifts are cut short, they should still be paid. It's not fair to send staff home without work and without pay on quiet nights. Workers deserve fairness and should not be exploited. And while we address our economic challenges, we cannot ignore the social ones. For too many people, and in particular women, a night out no longer feels safe. That is unacceptable. Safety is not an optional extra, It's a fundamental to the future of our nighttime economy. We must do more to make our streets feel safer late at night. That means robust, visible policing. It means tackling predatory behaviour head on. It means changing environments, lighting, design, staffing, transport to reduce vulnerability and build confidence. And let me be clear, transport is not just infrastructure, it's a safety enabler. People decide whether to go out based on whether they can get home safely. It really is that simple. I know this firsthand, and I know many of you do too. And if we want thriving nights, we need joined up thinking between central government and local authorities and local government, between transport, policing, regulations and businesses themselves. Because these are not separate conversations, they are the same one. And there's a bigger conversation we need to have about culture itself. We rightly celebrate our heritage. We protect historic buildings. But cultural value does not only live in bricks and mortar. Some of our most important cultural movements were born in basements, warehouses, clubs and temporary spaces. They were not designed to last forever, but their impact has. We need to start recognising the difference between a building and a cultural movement. That means protecting our cultural heritage, not just through listing processes, but through new ways of recognising intangible cultural assets, like how UNESCO acknowledges cultural significance beyond physical structures. Because not all cultural value sits in old buildings. We should be proud of our nightlife, proud of our live music, proud of our electronic music and our DJs and artists who are breaking boundaries globally, proud of the spaces where people refine their craft before the world took notice. These places are part of our national story and they deserve protection, recognition and support. And that is why I would support the government in having a named minister with responsibility for the nighttime economy, to champion the sector inside government and ensure that the voices of small and medium businesses are heard loud and clear. And this was called for in the NTIA manifesto, Darkest Before the Dawn. And other countries have led the way on this, and now we should learn from those countries and those successes and give the nighttime economy and the hundreds of thousands of businesses in its true champion on the national stage. I've seen the best of this sector close up. The venues in this room, the spaces you represent are extraordinary. They command global respect. They drive the visitor economy. They make the UK a cultural and social powerhouse that is envied worldwide. So I want to leave you with this. We need to do better. We need to recognise the value of this industry economically, culturally, socially. We need to design policy with the industry and not for it. And we need to create an environment, both economic and cultural, where businesses have the confidence to invest and grow, and that communities can thrive and people can believe in the amazing nightlife that this country has to offer. Because when the nightlife thrives, we all prosper. Thank you very much.